people wanting to know what's the one thing, like you
Right.
said, that's very common because that's just kind of how we're taught, in our
Right.
conventional medical system. It's what's the one pill I need to, fix this all, really to make these symptoms go away. But then, they come back or something else will come back later. So, and the other thing along that note that I notice people is that we're all educated to believe, okay, if I'm sick, if I'm ill, if I'm unhealthy, there is a pill that can change that. So I find that people are really like open or looking for, the supplements, or say there's, antiparasitics, things like that. But there's a lot less understanding around the nervous system or again, stress. Like I said, yeah, everyone will say lower your stress, but not so much concrete. So that's great. You're doing the limbic system rewiring. How much do you find that to be a key component, and what kind of changes do you see from it? Can you give us some specifics? I think people still in general, they don't equate it. They're like, oh, if I lower my stress, this will actually happen, or if I do some limbic system retraining, what's actually going to come from it? Because that takes a little work. It's not the same as just popping a pill.
Yes, you hit the nail on the head with that. So, you know, with all of this, with all of the holistic approach and functional medicine approach, it is not as simple as popping a pill or even taking a supplement, right? And so there's so much more involved. And yes, with the limbic system rewiring, these are exercises people have to do daily. And if they are going back to, like, if they're in a super stressed out state, they're already in a place of overwhelm and procrastination. And to take one additional thing on can be a lot. So I've really worked with in the past several months, just trying to find some supportive tools for them that are not so involved, that are not necessarily going to rewire the limbic system, but start to calm the nervous system down a little bit. So I don't know if you've worked with, like, it's called an Apollo Neuro. There's a really cool wearable device that was developed a few years ago that actually communicates. It uses sound waves, so these vibrations kind of touch the skin and they communicate with the brain to calm the nervous system down. So I feel like things like that, there are some really cool tools that we can work with now too, to kind of support nervous system response, nervous system regulation, get somebody into a parasympathetic state, which is a rest and digest state, and get the body in a little bit more of an environment conducive for healing too. So I've been kind of playing with that a little bit with clients too. Like, hey, I know to do like a whole limbic system rewiring program. Maybe you're not in a place to do that yet, but let's start with, the Apollo Neuro. I don't know if you've worked with Brain Tap. It's basically a meditation app that they call it meditation with technology. So I think one 20-minute brain tap session is the equivalent to, I think, 6 to 7 sleep cycles, or it puts the body through 6 to 7 sleep cycles. So there's just some things like that that we have started to introduce to clients as well. That, once again, these are not things that fix the entire problem or rewire the limbic system, but they do get the body's stress response lowered a little bit. And I feel like it can make the body more receptive to other forms of treatment, whether it be limbic system rewiring or even success with their supplement protocols, right? Going back to, if the body's just in this stressed out state all the time, how can we really move the needle even with supplements? I always share with my clients, I feel like we might be doing damage control at best, because all of those resources that the body has as far as energy goes and nutrition are being allocated towards, dampening or managing the stress response.
And you're saying it with the supplements, what they can do at that time when a person's that stressed, it's basically damage control. And then you're bringing in the limbic system, the neural training to decrease that stress so the body can actually start being a place to heal.
Yes. Yes. I have really, I feel like we work with some really great protocols, and people get amazing results. But if I'm working with somebody that they have gotten amazing results working with a protocol and then they go off of it, and, um, a lot of those symptoms start to reappear, or, they don't get full resolution from what's going on, then that's really kind of one of the pieces that clued me in, like, hey, these are the people that are like either executives or entrepreneurs, like high stress level individuals that we have got to manage that piece of it in order for them to get a better long-term result.
Right, right. How so you said when people come in, they're looking for like what's the one thing causing it, which I've done too. The other thing I find that people are looking for is how long? Like how long is this going to take? What do you find as a an average timeline for someone to make a meaningful change that, like you said, it'll actually last and stick around? It won't just disappear as soon as they get off a protocol.
So really how I try to approach things is, once we do like some of those assessments that I shared, or we do, and or lab work on somebody where we really get a good idea of what's going on and how best to address that. I always tell my clients, like, we're trying to approach this from two different strategies. One is a long game strategy, right? Whether it's parasites or mycotoxins or different infections, co-infections that the body's dealing with, or other toxin exposures like glyphosate and some of the other things that we're exposed to. Those are the things that are really filling the bucket up, right? Where the bucket has started to overflow, where we're seeing a lot of this dysfunction going on. The long game strategy is to really address those and do some cellular detoxification to offload some of that burden on the body. However, when we work with just that piece, people aren't always getting, they may, depending on where they are, start to feel better. But in some cases, that's the long game strategy, right? So they're not always feeling better right away. One of the things that I really try to support my clients with is some natural things to support symptoms while we're working on that long game so that they start to feel and see improvements in a pretty short period of time. So if somebody's working with me and they haven't seen some sort of shift within a month, I would say that's a very rare thing, because we're really trying to kind of come at it from two different strategies, right? I would say in some cases we're using natural band-aids to help with symptoms, but I always share with my clients, hey, those things are not going to work long term if we don't address this other component of things. What will happen is you'll either feel like you need to increase the dosage of those, or they'll just stop working because the actual reason that some of these things are presenting and some of these symptoms are there is not being addressed. So, you know, once again, these things are a result of once you start having symptoms, a lot of times these things have been problematic for years, the root cause reasons, right? It's the building up of all of the exposures to things, the system breakdown, the body having to manage all of this. So it can be a long time before those symptoms present. So I would never give anybody the idea that, like, in 1 month we're going to have this all resolved. I just would hope that they would see improvements with what we're working with in a month. And in some cases, it can be, depending on how compromised, how long somebody's been compromised. I mean, it could be, 6 months to a year before we start to really move the needle, and sometimes longer, depending on how long someone has been compromised and how long their body's been managing some of these things. So that's